Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A, where we answer Dolphins fans' questions. So let's get into the news you need to know about. And after we get you into the news, then we'll talk about the Colts game, and then we'll answer fans' questions. Because I forgot about the Colts game. I wish I could forget about it forever, but, it is what it is. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins wide receiver Will Fuller out with a broken finger. Before I continue with this story, if you hear things in the background, nothing I can do about it. Got people running all over the place right now. So Will Fuller breaks his finger. Currently, he's day-to-day. According to Ian Rappaport, he's week-to-week of NFL Network. I should say, not day-to-day. So his start to his Dolphins career hasn't been fantastic. I feel like he had an effect on the Raiders game in a positive way. We just didn't get the calls. Obviously, if those calls go our way, that's a different, I feel like that last one, especially in overtime, was in pass interference. So he has had somewhat of an impact on the team so far. It hasn't been an absolute zero. But the first two games he's played haven't been great. I think a lot of it has to do with the way the plays have been called. The excuses are for why, some of those plays haven't kind of come is because of, a lot of teams are playing soft coverage. That excuse really doesn't make a lot of sense from things that we've seen so far. We'll get into that later. So I think a lot of it has to do with a combination of things. The quarterback play has been poor. And I want to start by saying, we'll get into that later. The quarterback play has been poor. The play calling hasn't been fantastic. It's been middle of the road, I would say. Maybe even, I think a lot of fans would agree, below average. So they have a lot to figure out in that department. He does make a difference, though. He really does. And, especially with Jakeem Grant being traded, which we're going to get into here in a second. If you really think about it, obviously Waddle and Fuller would be the fastest players on the team. So to have Fuller and Waddle, obviously is a big advantage. So I still think we have a lot to look forward to with Will Fuller. I'm not ready to give up on him yet. My point, I think, is what I'm trying to get across is I do think he was a good signing, and I think we will see it. But some, obviously, other things have been kind of holding that back. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors, and again, I want to say it's not. I really don't think it's Will's fault, I guess is my point. Anyway, let's get into the next news story. This is the best news story that we've had in a long time. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins trade Jakeem Grant to the Bears for a 2023 sixth-round pick. Again, this news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Tom Pelissero of NFL.com reported this first. Obviously the compensation isn't great, but the contract, which wasn't awful, is taken, off the books. And he obviously, that last game was the final straw. He's not a good receiver. He's an absolute liability when it comes to that. It's funny though, one thing I will say about Jakeem, the way he was used in preseason did not translate into the regular season at all, for whatever reason. I really don't. I really don't understand that. But his tenure as a Dolphin was awful. He never was a good receiver. I guess I shouldn't say awful, but he never lived up to his potential. He was a good special teamer. He still had his muff punts and kicks that he had in his career, which weren't great. He had 2 muffs this year. One obviously was recovered by the opposite team in 3 games or 4 games. So I'm glad he's gone. He was a liability. He never really added anything to the team. He was a second-team All-Pro special teamer last year, and I think that's the best thing he really was able to kind of contribute, even though other than the 10-6 year in 2020, it really didn't amount to anything. He just was not a good player for the most part. He wasn't a good receiver, I should say, because he did have his moments as a special teamer. But this is a good thing in a weird way, I guess. It was just time. It was time to move on from him. I've never been a Jakeem Grant fan. We've had 2 muffed special teams play this year by Waddle and Grant. which is weird. This year has been very odd, very very weird. And I don't know if let's get into this. Let's get into the Colts, Dolphins game, because there's really nothing else to say about Jakeem Grant. It was a so-so career here as a Dolphin. He had some ups, but most of them were downs. His best play as a receiver was the catch on Monday Night Football. It was Monday Night Football against the Patriots at home when Jay Cutler threw him that touchdown. That was literally the highlight of his career as a receiver. Anyway, let's move on to the Dolphins-Colts game. The Dolphins lose to the Colts 28 to 14. This was one of the more disappointing games that I've seen as a fan in a long time. Nothing seems to be getting better. This Colts team, and I think that's the headline. Excuse me, it's 27 to 17. I think that's the headline of this game. The takeaway is nothing's getting better. Nothing's moving in the right direction. Everything seems to be taking a few steps backward. The only highlight of this team so far this year has been the defense. I think there's a lot of things to like on that side of the ball, but offensively, there's not much to talk about. And there's a lot of issues offensively right now. I mean, and I want to start off by saying I loved the way Jacoby played last week, for the most part, and I thought, okay, maybe we have something there. This guy had a great few runs in Indy. Maybe we found something that we can use, at least while Tua was out, and maybe even more than that. I was completely wrong about that. Probably my worst take since I've been doing these videos was that take. He was completely terrible in this game. He clearly, the emotions of playing the Colts for whatever reason, I don't know why, had some sort of effect on him. His accuracy was all over the place. I mean, the entire game, he was just, they're literally drive killer throws. Like, these aren't flat misses. These are, substantial gains and first down chain mover throws that he was missing. He doesn't make throws in rhythm. This was my whole issue with him when he took over the job, and this is why he does a great job of avoiding pressure because he's so big and he's so strong, but he doesn't throw the ball in rhythm at all. And I think hopefully the hope is that he is bogging down the offense more than the play calling, because this offense, especially in preseason, it was get the ball out quick. Once you come up to stop that, we hit you over the top. That's what it looked like in training camp. That's what it looked like in OTAs. And that's what it looked like in the preseason. So far, it hasn't been that. The offense has been completely out of rhythm because of that. So hopefully when Tua comes back, we can get that element back into the offense where we can throw in rhythm. The accuracy's there. We get the ball out quick. And that way we can get rid of some of these softer coverages. Now, the pass protection has to be better. And it was, I think, more consistent than not this week. Again, Jacoby likes to hold on to the ball. And that really just doesn't fit what the Dolphins are trying to do on offense. Not from a personnel standpoint, because they can hold the ball and go down the field. They have the personnel to do that. And we've seen that in these 2-minute drills. When they have to push the ball down the field, they have the playmakers that can get it done. But what the Dolphins want to do, what Charlie Fry and Godsey and Studesville, and what we've seen so far this offseason is get the ball out of your hands quick. We've seen a lot of the RPO packages. All that stuff has been thrown out the window because of Jacoby. So I guess what I'm saying is hopefully things get better when Tua comes back. He just fits what the Dolphins are trying to do offensively a little bit more. And I was completely wrong about the Jacoby thing. I thought, okay, maybe they changed, because that's all we heard this week going into the Colts and even the Raiders game was making a game plan more for Jacoby and his strengths. They haven't done that at all. They've just tried to do what they've been trying to do. And it doesn't work with him. And they've completely taken the RPO. I think that shows me a lot about Jacoby, is taking the RPO stuff out, because he just isn't a very good quick decision maker. And he made a lot of poor decisions in this game with the fumble, him trying to make a play on that in that moment of the game, which cost us big time. And all of the erratic throws were just not great, which just wasn't great. So Jacoby, I hope, is some of the issue. And obviously the pass protection is great, and the run blocking needs to be better. But I'm hoping things get better when Tua gets back. I'm hoping some of this stuff is fixable. And I hope that the play calling gets better when he does come back. Because they have built this offense around Tua. They have built this scheme around Tua. Not Jacoby. So I'm hoping things change when Tua comes back. And I do want to apologize to Dolphins fandom and everybody who listens to the show. I don't know what I was smoking last week. Okay, but that was the worst take I've had. Other things I've noticed on offense, I think the lack of tailoring the scheme to the players that they have is a little concerning, because it's like, what adjustments have they really made other than taking the RPO aspect of the offense, which we ran a lot more when Tua was in. Other than that, what have they done to tailor to Jacoby? Because every time Jacoby's in a 2-minute drill, we spread the ball out, we go down the field and let him play backyard football. Stuff it's better, and it's more when we're more aggressive. So I don't really know what they necessarily did. I haven't seen it, at least. Clearly they don't trust Jacoby, though, especially early in games, because they try to, okay, let's not turn the ball over. Let's try to keep it tight to the vet. They don't trust him. And that's clear in these games. For sure. And then when they have to have it, and we have to score, and they get more aggressive, we move the ball better. So they should have just trusted him more, especially going against an injured defense. And clearly, I guess, me even saying that's crazy, because we saw what he did in the game. I wouldn't trust him either. But him throwing in rhythm and these quick passes, that's not his game, man. It's just not his game. And another thing that I will say about the offense before we move on, everybody keeps bagging on the creativity of this offense. I do agree, because all we see around the league, and you see teams doing it to us against good defenses, is motion. The Raiders and Colts have killed our defense with motion. We've struggled really, really hard with it. I don't know why, and we'll get into some of the other things that defensively that we have to do better. But every good offense in the NFL utilizes motion. Every game, every snap. The Cardinals, the Rams, even the Patriots use it. And we don't. The Buccaneers do it. We don't do it at all. And it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why we don't utilize motion. The 49ers, all of the great offensive minds in the NFL right now use it. It doesn't make any sense. The only team that I've seen that doesn't do it that much and still can move the ball down the field is the Panthers. They don't really do it that much. And the Saints, they don't do it that much either. But they've been struggling too. Those are the only teams that I can really think of that don't do it a lot. But we don't do it at all for the most part, at all. And motioning this speed back and forth presents a lot of problems for that defense. And another thing that I didn't like about the game plan from an offensive coordinator's standpoint, and I hate using that word, they had a backup corner in there, and we didn't really do much until the end of the game, really, to take advantage of that. And this is a heavy cover 2 team. This is a heavy zone team. Mike Gesicki should have been utilized better in this game. And again, it goes back to them clearly not trusting him, Jacoby, and not being aggressive. I mean, even Jay Feely on the call brought that up 1,000 times during the game, and it's true. And it just, but again, I think that's another thing that I really noticed is just the lack of motion in this offense is weird. So many teams in the league right now have so much action off of motion. To not use it is weird. I mean, even the Patriots back in the day when they had Wes Welker used it a lot. Motioning out the running backs constantly, motioning Wes Welker from one side of the field to the other. He'll motion and then he'll go back out for a touchdown. That's how we got the 2-point conversion against the Raiders. That's a classic Patriots play. I just don't understand what's going on there. They just need to, and I thought that was one of my things that I was excited about, was getting some new younger guys in there, and all the things that we heard that it's a lot like Sean McVay's run offense and all that, and it's like New England's pass offense, and we haven't really seen that so far. So I just wish they would just utilize motion more. make defenses respect some of these guys that are so good in the open field, like Albert Wilson and Jalen Waddle. When those guys motion, you have to that messes up a lot of stuff. I just wish we would use that action a little bit more. Anything offensively, I think another thing that they've been talking about that I just completely disagree with is Malcolm Brown and trying to set a tone. And again, I hope this is because Jacoby's in the game and not Tua. But I completely disagree with this. Being a physical... This team is not that. It's not that. It's not... It's just not. It is not a run-first power football team. It's not. This team is speed, spread them out, and running backs that have some juice, that can go off tackle, and stuff like that. The in-between the tackle stuff isn't working. Spread them out, quick-paced, fast-paced offense is what this team is great at, and Tua is going to be fantastic. Even we saw it against the Falcons. Gaskin in the backfield, Ahmed in the backfield, spread them out, RPO game. The run game will get better. In the pass game, having all of those weapons on first, second, and third down, not just third down, on first, second, and third down, puts a lot of stress on the defense. And again, I hope it's because of Jacoby, but we haven't seen that so far. I don't want Malcolm Brown in the game. I don't want it. It's just not the identity of this team. This is a pass first team. Okay? This is again, get Gaskin in the backfield. Spread the ball out. Get in these formations that spread out the field. And put more pressure on the defenses. And get a fast pace to the game. The run game will get better. Okay? Because they can't crowd the box when we do that. Anytime we go under center, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. We can't even play action off under center. Throw it out. Stop trying to establish the run. That's not this team. Okay? I don't care what... And if it's true that Brian Flores wants to be that, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. That's not this team. That's just not this team. I don't know how you don't want... I know it's a preseason game. I understand that. But not even just in preseason... As the Falcons as an example, look at all the 2-minute drills so far this year. That's when our best offense happens. That's this team. It's a pass first, run second type of team. Spread the ball out, put Gaskin or Ahmed in the backfield, let them run routes, get matched up with linebackers, put 3-4 receivers out on the field, and just roll, dude. That's it. This team is not a power team. I don't know how many times I have to say that, but it's just not. Look at this. Malcolm Brown had 8 carries for 23 yards. He averaged below 3 yards a carry. Jacoby Brissett was the second leading rusher with 8 yards on 3 carries. Myles Gaskin had 2 carries. Ahmed had 3 carries. Okay? Look at how they were non-existent in the pass game. They didn't even get targeted. Ahmed got 2 targets. He had 12 yards. Where's Gaskin? Malcolm Brown had more. He had 1 more target than Gaskin. That can't happen. This team is not built that way. It's just being misused. And again, and I'll say it for the 1000th time this podcast, I really hope it's because of Tua not being in the lineup. It will be a miracle. I don't understand what's wrong with being more aggressive with Brian. The Patriots weren't afraid to do that. Spread the ball out and go and pass the football. They weren't afraid to do that. Why are we so afraid to do it? And I understand it with Jacoby. Maybe you don't want him to make a bad decision. Maybe you don't trust him to handle that. Because, maybe you don't want Jacoby being on a pass first offense. I can understand that, making those quick decisions. But Tua has to. Tua's really good at it. So I really, I don't understand why that's not being utilized. And again, that can't happen. Gaskin's a really good receiving back. Get him involved in the passing game. For him to have not even be targeted is crazy. That's just a misuse of your personnel. So let's go. And one thing I will say again about the mentality of this offense so far this year. all we heard about and all we saw in practice and training camp and preseason and OTAs was go down the field. We really want Tua to go down the field. We want to be more aggressive. Now, we've only seen Tua for one game. I just hope we see that when he comes back, because we have not seen that with Jacoby at all. There is no identity to this offense. And clearly this power, physical stuff isn't going to work with this team. So they need to throw it away, dude. And it's definitely not going to work against the Buccaneers. You know what will work? Spread the ball out. Get some type of matchup in their secondary, because they have so many injuries. And get aggressive. I don't care if... I can't watch Jacoby hand the ball off to Malcolm Brown anymore. I can't do it. And then get into third and long constantly. It's just not... What else do they need to see from this team? So let's go into the defensive side of the ball. And this is... Obviously, this season has just been heartbreaking, because this team's better than it's playing. It really is. From it being, especially offensively, just misusing people, and the play calling being so awful at times, and just bad sense of the game and everything. I mean, the Raiders game's a perfect example of that. I cannot believe this staff followed up another game where it's pretty much the same thing. I just can't believe it. I cannot believe they watched the end of the Raiders game and were like, let's go back to what we were doing for the first 3 quarters of the Raiders game. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's go to the defensive side of the ball before my brain explodes. You know, we right now, and again, people have been bringing up our third down defense. At one point, the Colts were 3 of 8 on third down. Okay, so it's just, honestly, it has a lot to do with the defense being on the field as much. It really does. The defense was on the field way too much in this game. So let's look at the Colts were 6 of 15, okay, in total in third down efficiency. They were 6 of 15. Okay. Obviously they were 1 for 1 on fourth down plays. Total plays, the Colts had 67. Okay. Obviously we had 49 total plays. So that's way more than it should be. It's way too much of a gap. And again, at one point in the game, the Colts were 3 of 8 on third down. Time of possession, the Colts had it 37 minutes. The Dolphins had it 22 minutes. Okay, that cannot happen. Okay, and if you look at the first half stats, it's even worse. So, the defense, okay, the only problem I have with it right now is Justin Coleman, okay, should not see the field. And again, Nick Needham going back to the lineup was a huge difference. I wish he would have played more in that Raiders game, because I do think he would have made a difference. Byron Jones, X, and Nick are really good in man coverage. Why would you ever play zone with this defense? I know you want to mix it up, you want to get creative, but anytime this team plays cover 3, we get absolutely shredded. One of the biggest, almost, some of the bigger plays in that game were off zone coverage. So that's another thing that I've noticed is just like this team doesn't practice zone. I don't know what it is, but they're just not good at it. Especially the linebackers. They're definitely not. Jerome Baker is not good at carrying people in the zone at all. So that's something that I've noticed with this defense. They're just really bad in zone. And a lot of those third down conversions were off zone, and especially to get short yardage. I mean, Xavier Howard, anytime you watch him drop back in a third or anything like any quarter, whatever you want to say, whether running cover 4 or any of that, it's not good. He's not good in zone coverage. So, yeah, I think those are the things that I've noticed. Other things that I've noticed defensively that are an issue is they've struggled with motion really bad. Like, if you look at the Raiders game, the Colts clearly saw the best run that the Raiders had was motioning Hunter Renfrow or Henry Ruggs, and they would pass off of the same action too, and then just running up the middle or running off the tackle with your running back, and pretty much every big run that the Colts had was they motioned someone across the field first, or they motioned someone, and it really messed up what the run fits or whatever the issue is of our defense. And, people might say, well, and this was brought up during the broadcast, well, the Dolphins are in dime and nickel most of the time. That has nothing to do with it. I know that sounds bad. Those aren't big fronts. But most of the big runs in that game, especially, were in the shotgun. And good NFL defenses in today's day and age can get in the nickel and dime and play good run defense. The Patriots do it all the time. They literally can stop the run and sometimes and just normal 4-man fronts easily. So it has nothing to do with that. Yes, the run defense has to get better. But I promise you the run defense will be better if the offense was better. I really do believe that. I really do believe if this offense can give this defense anything, the defense, all of these issues will get way, 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 way better. Like I just pointed out with the time of possession. I mean, again, the Colts were at one point in the game 3 of 8 on third down. And we didn't take advantage of any of that at all. And a lot of the time we had the ball at midfield. And we just didn't do anything with the ball. This start has been terrible. It really has. But my hope is when Tua comes back, things get a lot better. Offensively. Because offensively right now, this is a bottom 3 team in the NFL. It's really bad. I think between some of the poor pass protection so far this year, what else can I even... The pass protection, and between that and the misuse of personnel, it's been ugly. It's been really, really, really ugly. It's been very, very, very disappointing, especially since the stuff we've seen in the offseason and things that we heard from beat writers. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And this loss was awful. I mean, the fact that the Colts were basically missing all their entire defense, really, a lot of their key players on defense, and a lot of key players on their offense. And we couldn't take advantage of it is just very sad. Very sad. But there's still hope, ladies and gentlemen. I know you guys don't believe it. I know you think the house is on fire. I know you think everything's... This team is still good. It's still got a good roster. And again, I think the only hope to see change on offense, really, is when Tua comes back. So let's get into the fan. Oh, sorry, I almost dropped this. Let's get into the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. This first question. Oh God, this first question. I'm dropping everything. This first question comes from Curtis. He says, "What do you think that Chris Sims for GM? He seems to know how to pick out players on TV, and I think." We need one. Plus, he just has an overall great view of the game and always picks really good on the scores. If not Chris for your GM, who would you pick? I like Chris Sims. He's a good player. He's a good analyst. He's missed on some other positional groups, but on the quarterback position, he's been really, really good. But yeah, I wouldn't mind him being the GM at all. I think he, especially with he has a very innovative. He knows how what works in today's game. He comes from a great family, a great football family. I think he would be a great GM. This question comes from Maurice. He says, "Thanks for the show. Good stuff. Question: Why wouldn't Brian be on the hot seat as well as Greer? This is the 3rd year of his tenure, and the offense still stinks. Thank you for your reply." The culture he set. I love the way he runs the defense. I think talk about innovative. He set a trend. You see a lot of NFL teams running the same amoeba blitz that he really made popular from his time in New England and his time in Miami. And I love the way he runs the defense. It is very New England. It's very Bill Belichick. And the way we double team people, the way we put certain players on certain personnel of the other team, I think is fantastic. And I think his defensive mind is really, 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 really special. And I know that hasn't really been kind of put together yet, but again, I think a lot of it, and I'm being dead serious, is the offense's fault. So you can't play that bad on offense and expect to win anything. That's why he wouldn't be on the hot seat, at least if I was making decisions. Plus the culture, he has, and from all accounts, people, and I've said this before, people outside of the building have said it's completely changed, and it's the best it's been since Jimmy Johnson. I mean, so many people have said that. That don't even work for the Dolphins. So, those are the reasons I would keep Brian. All right. So let's get into the next question here. It's a good question by Maurice. Jackpack18, he says, that looked like a Joe Philbin team out there. The fact that Jakeem Grant still has a job here tells me all I need to know about the coaching staff. They are not good. Well, you got your wet Jackpack. He's out of the building, thank God. He's just not good. This next question comes from SM. He says, it looks like we are trying to run a West Coast offense with scat running backs, spread everyone out scheme. But we are missing out one key element what those teams have, which is a mobile quarterback. Thoughts? Yeah, you would think that's what we would try to do, SM, but that's not what we've done. I mean, like I just said, Gaskin didn't even get a target in this game. So it just doesn't make... I mean, Malcolm Brown had more targets than Gaskin. And he had more targets than Achman, which cannot happen. Achman's way... I mean, you saw... Achman caught a wheel route for a touchdown in preseason. Okay? So they're both very good scat backs. And you would think that's what we would do, but we haven't done that. And Jacoby hasn't been good at running that type of an offense at all. And I think they've kind of went away from it a little bit too much. They've tried to get under center to try to play a little bit more bully ball, and that's just not what this team is. So hopefully we see more of that stuff when Tua comes back. This next question comes from Beef. He says, "Hey Skaggs, how do you think the game between the Buccaneers is going to be like? I would love for us to win this game, regardless of how bad our record has gotten." Well, we can't play bully ball with the Buccaneers because that's the best part of their defense is their front seven. They're with their linebackers and their interior players with Sue and Vita Vea. It's very difficult to push them around. So they have to do, again, what this team is good at is just spread the ball out and exactly what SM was saying with put West Coast, hit him with a quick passing game, make him come up, then hit him over the top. But who knows if... I swear if they trot out the same mentality against the Buccaneers, everybody better pray that they don't do that with Tua. This next question comes from Mark. He says, Skaggs, in my opinion, we have to look at the scheme, personnel, play calling, and the talent all should be evaluated. And again, this question comes from Mark. He says, it would have been the same result even if Tua was there. No, I disagree. I would hope the game plan would have been different. If that criticism about him was wrong, the one thing that has always been true is he's injury prone. Let alone he has decent ability. What changes do you think need to be made? I just think that the mentality and the identity of the team needs to kind of go in a different direction, I think is the biggest thing. This next question comes from Mystical Child. God. I don't know what... Mystical Child. He says, hey, Skaggs, question. Are the loss... Okay, let's start off. Let's start over. He says, hey, Skaggs, question. After the loss to the Colts, when asked if a quarterback change was an option, Flores said Reed Sinnett is not an option. In your opinion, what do you think that is? And do you think it's worth a shot? No, because Tua's coming back after the Buccaneers game. And putting Reed against the Tampa Bay defense, we would have to protect him too much. At least Jacoby's seen a lot of football, and clearly we've been having to protect Jacoby as well. But at least Jacoby has played in NFL games. I understand why you wouldn't put in Reed. Mystical Space Child goes on to say, I personally think Sinnett looked great in preseason behind the second and third string of line. Brissett has looked like a dog turd. and the offense is looking so bad, like it has. What do you have to lose by switching quarterbacks? Thank you for your response. You really don't have a lot to lose, but maybe for some reason they think that I don't know. I think it has to do with him being just not having a lot of experience. Who knows? Maybe they changed their mind. I don't know. I doubt they changed their mind after what Coach Flo had, obviously had to say about that. But I think it just has to do with inexperience. This next question comes from Vegas, and again, it's preseason, guys. They see if he was that emphatic in his answer to that question, I think that says a lot. This next question comes from Vegas. He says, I know Flores hasn't lost the locker room, but is he losing it slowly, being tuned out by the team? I ask because I'm seeing the same mistakes, penalties, drops, and inopportune times at inopportune times. After 4 weeks of play and seemingly nothing is changing. No, because every time we've seen other head coaches lose the locker room. He hasn't lost it yet. Coach, before the Colts game, Mike Gesicki had a quote where he said, basically telling everybody lax and that he believes in the coaching staff. I mean, Eric Rowe said the same thing. So they wouldn't say that stuff if they don't believe in what is being said in that locker room. This next question comes from Last World. He says, going into the fourth offense had a total. So going into the fourth quarter, the offense had a total of 76 yards. So far, the dual OCs have been a joke. Not to mention the team isn't nearly as disciplined as it has been. On top of the defense has regressed as well as the offense. Just so bad nobody speaks on it now. My question is, at what point do you think this is on Flores? Because of lack of adjustments to personnel in terms of players and some of these head coaches scratching plays, decisions on a weekly basis. Is this on the head coach? We can't keep using the coordinators as excuses when you brought these guys in. Oh man, I don't know, man. I'm gonna be a little bit more patient with it than a lot of other people because I want to see what happens when Tua comes back, and then I will make a final decision on this play calling because it is. If you look at what it looked like, and again, I know it's preseason, it's the off season, but from what it looked like then to now is just completely different, and I have to believe it's because of Jacoby. So we'll see what happens when Tua comes back. This next question comes from SM. He says, looking back, would the Dolphins have been better off drafting Micah Parsons? No. I mean, I know that. I mean, Jalen Phillips gets the second most pressure percentage, and the other one that has more is Micah. But Micah has the benefit of blitzing. So he's not, engaging in pass rush every play. So that's kind of a weird stat to put on to compare those two. But I like, especially these last couple weeks, Jalen Phillips has played well. This next question comes from Curtis. He says, hey, Skaggs, what's our chances of winning a Super Bowl in the next 10 years? I couldn't tell you. It depends on the quarterback play. Then I guess we'll have our answer. This next question comes from SM. He says, I keep bringing up the drafting of Noah over the running back the Colts drafted. Thoughts over Jonathan Taylor? Dude, I honestly, I don't know if he would have made that much of a difference. I like Gaskin and Achman and what they kind of do for this offense. We just have to see them be utilized that way. This next question comes from SM. He says, if Chris Kerr gets fired at the end of the year, does Coach Flores stay? Yes, I hope so. And hopefully it doesn't come to that, but we'll see. This next question comes from Chippo. He says, hey, Skaggs, I must say I like the show and keep up the good work. Question, is it me or did the 2019 seem to give more effort? Maybe we should have kept some of those guys who really wanted to be here. So if you had to place blame on someone, who would get the lion's share of the blame? Listen, the season's not over yet. I know that we're 1-3. We had a similar start last year. I think we were 1-4 though. and we still won 10 games. Maybe no, I think we were 1-3. So I'm just thinking. I don't know who I'm not ready to say yet. But I mean, as of right now, it's who's ever making the offensive game plan for sure. I think it could be better. This next question comes from Beef. He says, "Hey Skaggs, unless you haven't heard yet, what are your thoughts of the Dolphins bringing in Austin Ryder from the Kansas City Chiefs?" Um, uh, it's kind of. I mean, we have to. I don't know. We'll see what he can do. I was hoping the Dolphins would at least give Forrest Lamp some kind of tryout or something. Bring him in the building. He started 16 games from the Chargers last year. He's a proven guy. I would have liked to see him, come in. This next question comes from SM. He says, "What did we not exploit? Why did we not exploit all of the Colts injuries?" You would have to ask the Dolphins. I don't know. This next question comes from Curtis. He says, "Awesome work, Skaggs. What would you say the draft grade is on Greer?" I would probably say a C plus, maybe. He's found some good players, but obviously, you would, especially in the earlier rounds. So far, I would say C plus. This next question comes from SM. He says, "Why do the Dolphins not have the same fight as last year?" I disagree with that. The defense shows so much heart each and every single week. It's just the offense is just not there. This next question comes from Curtis. He says, "Who's going to be a better quarterback, Tua or Mac?" I don't know. I think Tua has more potential. So we'll see. I hopefully Tua, if we can get stuff around him better. This next question comes from Steven. He says the team's failure is squarely on Chris Grier and Brian Flores. Brian Flores is just as involved in personnel decisions as Grier, if not more. How do you know that, Steven? How do you know that? He goes on to say, "And if you don't believe, then do you think it's a coincidence that we have signed so many former Patriots players since Flores arrived?" Well, free agency hasn't been the problem. It's been the draft. Free agency has not been the problem. The difference that Flores deserves a chance to try to fix this, but Grier definitely deserves to be fired. We've had 10 picks in the first 2 rounds of the draft the last couple of years, and what do we have to show for it? We have had so much money in free agency the last couple of years. What do we have to show for it? We have one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, Eric Rowe, who's been fantastic. Emmanuel Ogbah, who's been fantastic. So you're not going to hit on every decision you make, but a lot of the free agency decisions this regime has made have been good. And I hope we can continue to see some of those things on offense. I mean, if you look at what Eric Flowers is doing in Washington, he seems to be doing okay. I don't know why they got rid of him. So they've made good decisions in free agency. So I disagree with that. We've had so much... Okay, so then he goes on to say, "We've seen enough to know that Grier has made poor personnel decisions over and over again. He's been great at swindling trades, but when it comes to free agency and drafting players, he's been below average. He's definitely not been below average when it comes to free agency. And the results are starting to show that this rebuild has been a failure, and that's on Chris Grier. Poor personnel decisions and lack of putting together a quality offensive coaching staff are killing this team, and this is on Brian Flores. Changale really wasn't that bad looking back now. End of rant." I agree with some of the things you said. The drafting so far hasn't been, especially with Austin Jackson, I think he's been the most disappointing player. Igbenogany has obviously been very disappointing. Jalen Phillips, Jalen Waddle, Tua, all have bright futures, though. Those 3 are going to be good players. I really do believe that. So I think some of it, and Raekwon Davis, he's definitely had good picks. I think saying that he's made awful decisions isn't I would say accurate. Christian Wilkins is a good player, so it's not like he's been terrible. He's picked good players. It's just offensively, it has to be better. I think Eichenberger right tackle has looked a lot better as well. So I think a lot of the meltdown that the Dolphins fandom is going through right now is a little bit exaggerated. Granted, the expectations this team had and what we've seen on the field, and what, especially after last year, it just hasn't been what it should be. And I completely agree with some of the things that people have been saying, especially with the offensive coordinators. But I think some of the other stuff is a little exaggerated. This next question comes from Richard. He says, Chris Greer wasted our draft capital. One was Igbenogany. The Dolphins could have drafted Jonathan Taylor or traded back to get more picks. And then the last draft he could have traded for Penei Sewell or drafted Najee Harris. This is bad. This is as bad as Jamar Fletcher and Jason Allen. Dolphins have the second coming of Jeff Ireland. The franchise is set back now. I hope I'm wrong. I think you're definitely wrong about that, for sure. In terms of, yes, take Jonathan Taylor. If he was on this team, the Dolphins would still be having these offensive problems. That would not have fixed them. Najee Harris clearly wouldn't have fixed them because he can't fix the Pittsburgh offense. So that's not a good take, in my opinion. I don't think having one of those running backs changes anything. This next question comes from SM. He says, why does our third down defense suck so bad this year? Because the offenses get so many chances to get third downs. That's why. This next question comes from Curtis. He says, can B-Flow coach offense? He looks beat down at the presser. Is he losing the team? No, I don't think so. He definitely looks I would say, disappointed. And I don't want to sound like I'm being aggressive towards anybody's questions. I just get passionate about my opinions, I guess. Because all of those, everyone who's said the things about Chris, and you all could be definitely have an argument to be made. I just disagree with it. I think, like I said, I think a lot of it's being exaggerated right now, because he has picked good players. We just have to get it together. I think the worst thing that's happened so far this year, and the worst part of the football team right now, is the play calling. I think that's the worst part. So we'll see what happens with that. I hope it gets better. It's worse than it was a year ago, which is kind of mind-boggling. So yeah, we'll see. And again, I don't want to sound like I answer these questions like you guys are stupid, because I mean everybody who saw the Raiders game last week was not as high on Jacoby as I was. I was a complete moron for that, like a complete moron. So again, listen. Clearly, I'm stupider than I don't even know, a basking shark, for God's sake. So some of the things I say are really stupid too. So my point is I kind of got a little bit too passionate there. Anyway, the point is this stuff is gonna get better. I hope, dude. If Tua comes into the game and we don't see more of some of the stuff that we've seen earlier, and some of the stuff that I was talking about, more West Coast, more spread, using the running backs in the pass game. If we don't see that stuff, I don't know what the heck they're doing in that building then. I really don't. Because I feel like a lot of people who are sitting on the couch at home could run that offense better and make adjustments to the offense that benefit the team than what they're doing in that building right now. And they got to throw out this whole identity thing. And even when Omar Kelly's saying, about how this team isn't physical, it's just not this team. It's just not, this team is not that. It's not power, football, physical, it's not that. So that has to be thrown out the window. They have to put that in the trash and forget about it, because it's not going to happen. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed this show. The fan Q&A was fantastic. 30 questions in total. Thank you, everybody, for doing that. Hopefully things get better. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Because right now, I really don't know what the heck they're doing as an offensive staff. I just really don't.